Triple H versus the Ultimate Warrior. On paper, this sounds like a dream match. The Cerebral Assassin, the King of Kings, versus the Ultimate Warrior. But this was not the Cerebral Assassin. This was not the King of Kings. This was the Connecticut Blue Blood, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, versus the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 12. Remember this gimmick? Triple H's first gimmick in WWE. He was the Connecticut Blue Blood. He bowed. Came out with beautiful women. Told everybody how much better he was than them. Claimed he was from Connecticut. And he faced the Ultimate Warrior, the returning legend, at WrestleMania 12. And this match did not go as it was supposed to. Let me set the stage. The year was 1996. Hunter Hearst Helmsley was a rising star. WWE saw a big future in him. They saw him as a future main eventer, which, with the gimmick Hunter Hearst Helmsley, he was not going to be a future main eventer, but he would as Triple H. But anyways, WWE brings the Ultimate Warrior back. They need ratings. They need big stars. But what Vince McMahon doesn't know is the Ultimate Warrior is now full of Destrucity. And Destrucity cannot be defined. Mainly because I don't remember the definition of it. So they set this match up in a hurry. Because they want Ultimate Warrior on their card at WrestleMania 12. And they think Hunter Hearst Helmsley is the perfect opponent for him because he's an up-and-comer and Ultimate Warrior's a legend. So Triple H, that I'm tired of calling him Hunter Hearst Helmsley, gets Gerald Briscoe and goes up to the Warrior with some ideas for their match before WrestleMania. And Ultimate Warrior pretty much tells them that he does not appreciate this, both from Gerald Briscoe and from Triple H. Now, this was kind of normal back then, back before matches were scripted. A legend or veteran did not appreciate a up-and-comer or someone who had been in the business not very long, as Triple H hadn't been in the business very long at this point, coming up to them and giving suggestions for their match. Typically, a veteran or a legend would just say, look, just listen to me in the ring, it'll go fine. So Ultimate Warrior might have felt disrespected at this point. And most legends would have at that point. But it does not justify what he did in this match. So the match comes, and it's supposed to be a normal match. Like regular length, an actual decent match. For those of you who watched this match, you know it was not. And for those of us who know about this match, we know it was only 99 seconds long. Ultimate Warrior comes to the ring. Triple H jumps him, gets in a little bit of offense, hits his finisher, the pedigree, and Warrior jumps up like he was hit with a spitball. And Warrior immediately starts clotheslining Triple H, hits the shoulder tackle, hits the big gorilla press, hits the body splash, and that's it. That's the match. That was not how the match was supposed to go. And Triple H is pissed. Vince McMahon is pissed. Bruce Pritchard is pissed. Everybody in the back is pissed. Warrior is happy. Warrior is the only one that's happy. Warrior's fans are happy. They're the only people who are happy. So then, as Bruce Pritchard said in an interview, he's like, oh God, we got to deal with this again. So then they put Warrior in a feud with Goldust. And Warrior is once again being Warrior. But Warrior is being over-the-top Warrior. He gets in a feud with Goldust, and then he goes into a feud with Jerry Lawler, who's not primarily a color commentator at this point. But Warrior is being over-the-top Warrior. He is missing house shows because he blames his father dying, who he was estranged from. He is demanding that WWF at that point buy his comic book, buy huge amounts of his comic book to sell, which, according to Bruce Pritchard, was more editions of his comic book that he wanted them to buy to sell than that Bruce Pritchard thinks even Spider-Man or Superman move. And so Warrior gets Let's Go in August. It's a 4-month. It's roughly a 4-month return for the Warrior. Triple H goes on to become a big star. So WWF in 2005 released this DVD called The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, where Triple H calls Warrior the most unprofessional wrestler he ever worked with. Ultimate Warrior's response to that was Triple H must have learned a lot from him, because Ultimate Warrior calls Triple H the most unprofessional asshole he's ever heard of. Now, as you can see, they're not exactly getting along at this point. At which point, Warrior, after the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD, becomes a right-wing political pundit. And for those of you who watched his vlogs or read his blog, he was hilarious. Because one, he issued death threats against Hulk Hogan. And two, he was just hilarious. He made about as much sense as a right-wing pundit as he did as the Ultimate Warrior. But Triple H got more power in WWE at this point, and decided to reach out to the Ultimate Warrior to sign him to a Legends deal and put him in the Hall of Fame. Eventually changing his tune to, it was actually a big thrill to work with the Ultimate Warrior at my first WrestleMania, and I can't deny that. And so he reached out and he reached out and he reached out to the Warrior until the Warrior had to reach back. And the bridges were mended, and the Warrior went into the Hall of Fame in 2014 and signed both a Legends deal and a deal to be a global ambassador. But sadly, the Warrior died like 3 days later. So then they made his wife, Dana Warrior, because the Ultimate Warrior changed his last name to Warrior at one point. Dana Warrior, a global ambassador. And they created the Warrior Award, which they gave to people who they felt deserved it. Now, Dana Warrior was released, I think, earlier this year or last year. And I don't know if they still have the Warrior Award. But it was a fitting legacy to the Ultimate Warrior, who, although he was a pain in the ass to work with, he lived a life that was truly his own. And that is the story of Triple H and the Ultimate Warrior. Join me later this week for a very special movie that, as I said, it's my birthday week. So tomorrow you're getting a video where you normally wouldn't get a video. And then later in the week, we're getting a movie that I watched as a kid with my brother and my father. I still haven't written a song. I'm still hoping to write a song. Not a birthday song, though, because that's just overdone. So join me later.